Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide you with context in the war in Ukraine. It is January 26, 2025, and this is a daily brief. So I'm going to go through this as I normally do, but I'm going to look at it a little bit differently. Over the last couple of days, I felt more optimistic than I've felt in a long time, and I think I understand why. There's some significant shifts that have happened here, even though the fundamental things that are going on day to day are somewhat similar. And I'll explain what I mean here. So there's 1720 Russians off the battlefield. Okay, where does that leave us? That is about the 16th highest day. I'm pretty sure it is the 16th highest day, despite that there are some ties above that on the ranking of highest days of casualties. 9 tanks, 4 armored fighting vehicles, 14 artillery systems, 53 vehicles and fuel tanks. Nothing really all that new there. Okay, in the past week alone, Ukraine faced hundreds of Russian attacks, 1,250 aerial bombs, 750 attack drones, over 20 missiles, and yet they're still standing. Like that's what I'm talking about with the optimism. Like they're still there. What is it? 1,070-ish days into the war, you're still standing, and that's not like so. The other day, I was reading something where the Russians were saying, "Well, this isn't going to force us into anything. Like we're like, almost like everything was going according to plan. Like we're not going to be. We don't need to be compelled into like no, things aren't going according to plan. Like it was a statement that Europe has done all this and yet they haven't stopped us, or no, they've stopped you. Like if you could do more to Ukraine, you would have already, and you don't have the ability. So I'm optimistic for that reason. Here's Shahed Drones again overnight, 72 launched, 50 shot down, 9 suppressed, but I'm not seeing a lot of news of great damage around Ukraine. Okay, USAID office ordered to suspend projects funding. Okay, so what actually happened, I talked about this yesterday. 90-day suspension from the State Department to review everything. That included Ukraine, but it didn't include, now it included USAID, which is like little humanitarian projects, which is unfortunate, but it didn't include military support, military spending. So that's encouraging. The G7 and EU have already guaranteed their finances for all of 2025. I mean, it's already set. So that's encouraging. So in spite of setbacks like this, I still find things like this encouraging. Every day, Greece's shipping oligarchs, blue, that's in here in the blue color, they sell oil tankers to Putin's shadow fleet in gray. And that's why you're seeing all this here in the gray. Okay, that's how Russia circumvents the G7 oil price cap, especially out of its Baltic ports, which are the main exit point for Russian oil. The EU has looked the other way for 3 years now, but I find it encouraging that they're doing something about it finally, that they're aware of it, that they're like, that even in the last days of his administration, Biden would at least put those sanctions in place. I could have gone earlier, but it's still there. And so now we know, that worked, and that kept Russian oil from shipping from various places. You can do that again. So I'm optimistic about that. Another submarine cable was damaged in the Baltic Sea, this one connecting Latvia and Sweden. Early Sunday morning, the submarine fiber optic cable of the Latvian State Radio and Television Center in the Baltic Sea was damaged. At this time, there's reason to believe that the cable is significantly damaged and that the damage is caused by external influences. So they know where about the cable was, and this is bad, right? But we're aware of it. Finland was doing something about it. NATO forces have now grouped together a number of ships and helicopters and such in order to kind of monitor this. So they're actually making progress, doing something, not just being dormant and going, well, we're going to have strong words for you. Something could very well come of that, where you just didn't see that happen in the past. So it's not a good thing, but I'm still optimistic. Another story, Donald Trump sent Mk-84 bombs to Israel, lifting Biden's ban. The administration of the former U.S. President Joe Biden had sent thousands of such bombs to Israel after the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023. However, the shipments were later halted due to concerns that the use of Mk-84 bombs could result in significant civilian casualties in Gaza. Today, we lifted the ban, and today they will receive them. They paid for them. They've been waiting a long time, Trump said. So they're on the way. So this ban was overturned by Trump. And if he could do that with Israel, he could do other things with Ukraine. And so I'm optimistic because I'm seeing a change in policy where, and again, Trump, I don't think ideologically is right there in Ukraine's corner, but he's not ideologically opposed or ideologically worried about escalation or those kind of things. So there's hope there. I'm optimistic for that reason as well. Russian forces continue to advance near Donetsk, Terezk, Pokrovsk, Kharkiv, Velka, Novosilka. And some of these places like Kharkiv and Velka, Novosilka are essentially overrun. And while the Russians keep coming, I'm optimistic because this is not going to be the end. So I'm still optimistic. The Russian incompetence that has been such a gift to the Ukrainian forces in Ukraine is now performing in the same miracles in Russia's Kursk region. Russia continues to accidentally bomb their own areas with 250 kilogram guided bombs to the dismay of locals. Yeah, hitting dirt in between houses and so you don't want to say that your enemy is just incompetent and rule that out and say they're incompetent, they can't do anything. That's not what I'm trying to say. But they're not the big bad second army in the world that you thought that they were, that was just going to overrun Ukraine in a matter of weeks. 1,070 days into the war. Okay, lending more credibility to the theory that Biden administration told Ukraine to stop the strikes on Russian oil infrastructure in the months before the election. It resumed on November 7th. And if you start looking at where these oil strikes started hitting again, and they're hitting in force, and they're going to keep going, and there doesn't seem like there's any end in sight, I'm optimistic. Here, Russian oil refinery bingo. It's just keep coming. It's pretty amazing to see what the Ukrainians have been doing here, especially just over the last few weeks. So last night, there was a second successful drone attack carried out on the oil refinery in Ryzan this month. It was burning brightly last night with fire trucks rushing out to put out the flames. The Ryzan Oil Refining Company is the largest refinery in Central Federal District with a processing capacity of 17 to 18 million tons of oil per year. The plant produces a wide range of products, including gasoline, A92, A95, A98, A100, diesel fuel, TS1 aviation fuel, liquefied gases, etc. Okay, so the refinery produces about 840,000 tons of TS1 aviation kerosene, which accounts for 8.4% of the total production of this product in Russia. And it was hit again. And so that was hit again just 2 nights after it was hit. There's no air defense there. And Russia's a big country with lots of these places where there's not going to be any air defense. Okay, Russia's Ministry of Defense claimed to have shot down 15 drones overnight, 8 in Ryazan, 6 in Kursk, 1 in Belgorod. But the numbers don't really add up because there were at least 10 strikes, within Ryazan itself, but that's okay. We know that it was hit. Ukraine likely won't be negotiating until Russia is no longer has an oil industry, or until it I don't see any scenario where Ukraine just ceases doing this and it's just going to deprive the Russians of more and more resources in oil. And now that's leading me to this with Anna from Ukraine, and she's going to talk about something in just a moment that I think is really important. Couple this with Trump's policy of hey, let's drive down the oil prices, and Ukraine's policy of hitting these oil depots with drones, and they're able to do it. That's the trick. I think it's going to have a positive effect. Now, here's Anna talking about this. She said, Ukrainian drones exposed Russia's weakness, hitting military targets in 11 regions, including Moscow. Now, this was 2 nights ago. So this is not last night. This is 2 nights ago. But her point is still very sound. Let's listen to this.
Hello, guys. And there is literally no way that Putin and his propagandists can keep pretending that Russia is strong and Russia is invincible. Inexpensive Ukrainian drones have very vividly illustrated that vulnerability.
Isn't that a profound point? They're getting through. Okay, so the Ukrainians are basically knocking down Shaheds every day, left and right. But the Russians can't seem to knock down these Ukrainian drones that keep hitting their oil depots. That's really interesting.
For example, tonight our drones have visited Russian military objects in 11 different regions. That is Bryansk, Ryazan, Kursk, Saratov, Moskva, Belgorod, Voronezh, Tula, Lipetsk, and Oryol, targeting a huge oil refinery in Ryazan, a military weapon plant in Bryansk, and even visiting Moscow and sending a message to the population of Russia that everything goes not according to the Putin's plan. So Russia can and will be defeated. Share and subscribe to witness that together.
Yeah, you know what? So everything's not going according to Putin's plan. I think that's exactly right. And that's why I'm optimistic. Okay, just a couple last things and we'll wrap up. The embassy in Canada has repeatedly publicly stated that no invasion of Ukraine is planned, and attributing some kind of malicious intent to us in the form of cyber attacks is simply absurd. When was this put out? Let's look at the date, January 26th, 2022. 3 years ago today. They're lying about it. No invasion is planned. Okay. Now, it is possible that they didn't know, but they were still putting out misinformation. Happy Australia Day to our friends down under. Now, I don't give Australia enough credit. You guys have been awesome in supporting Ukraine. And while I talk more about the Canadians or the British or whatever, just because my contacts is an American, that's closer to my orbit. But you guys are awesome. I want to give you all a shout out. You've been stalwart in supporting Ukraine. Good on you. And then finally, good night to our defenders who turn innovation into a weapon against tyranny. It is absolutely amazing how innovative the Ukrainians have been in turning just average gadgets into weapons of war that they can use to asymmetrically fight off a larger foe. It's just amazing. All right, my friends, that's all that I have. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes and the shares and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.